Well, this is my 32nd year practicing dentistry, and I've been in 2 countries. So I've done a lot of different things. And right now I'm focused in Los Angeles, Manhattan Beach, California, where I still practice dentistry with a focus on preventive healthcare and especially insomnia, sleep apnea, and snoring. I have a program called Sleep Restoration, and I believe that the majority of the world right now is suffering from some form of sleep disorder or other. And you can see behind me my little logo there. So this is of great interest to me, and it's related to my book, The Modern Epidemic, and my new paradigm called Modern Hunter-Gatherers. And what I like people to think about is that we have the biology of a hunter-gatherer, but we live in the modern world. So we kind of want to know how these bodies should be operated. Just because we're, in a studio right now, this is not our natural habitat. And we need to really keep that in mind because our bodies are sensors for the environment. So that's where I'm focused these days. I'm still, do practice dentistry, but I'm really fascinated by this new epidemic of sleep disorders.
Yeah, that is so fascinating. We've talked to several dentists on the show who are also addressing that. It's a huge problem. You're right. It is a majority of people. And you can almost like, if you walk around early enough in the morning, you can kind of see that that's the strap marks on people's faces where they're using sleep apnea machines. It's
Uh,
almost like more common than not these days. It's pretty
sure.
crazy.
Yeah, well, it's one of those things too. People are very embarrassed about their sleep and they get very defensive because when you ask about sleep, it's always almost an accusation of like, oh no, I'm good. I sleep great. I just have a lot on my mind. And I want people, instead of being defensive, to understand that many people around the world are having sleep issues, and there is a biochemical real reason. I want people to understand that there's something going wrong with our biology that is playing out in these sleep disorders. And if you don't sleep properly, a lot of bad things can follow. You're starting to hear more and more about this, but when people think about sleep apnea, they think, well, that's not me, and I'm not fat, and I'm a good person, and I don't want to wear that mask. All that stuff comes to mind, and you can't blame them because, anyone who doesn't wear a CPAP doesn't want to wear one. Even people who wear one, they prefer probably not to, unless they're getting great sleep, and then they're going to wear it.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I love that. And it's so interesting. This is why I find the work of somebody like Dr. Mickey Bendor so interesting, is like researching this is how we evolved through time. It's not necessarily that we need to go back to, living in a cave and, hunting pets in the street or whatever. We need that understanding to then make choices about how we're going to live our modern lives in 2022. And
Right.
putting those two pieces together is so important.
Well, and that's really it. If you kind of think about it in this way, in the old days, when we were hunter-gatherers, we had our tribal elders. And in our tribe, we were taught things by these tribal elders who said, don't eat these plants, eat these plants. This is how you do this. This is how you do that. Now, here we are in the modern world, and we've gotten to the point where people have sort of fallen out of their paradigm where I go to the doctor, I say I have a problem, he gives me a medication to hide the symptoms of that problem, that's it. People are really starting to wonder, what is my health really all about? And what do I need to do to stay healthy? And more than anything, people are all trying to be fit. They're all trying to exercise and do the right things. Really, almost everyone is. The real problem is the information that's out there is not correct. And it breaks my heart because I stumbled and failed on that wrong information for so many years until I discovered the group of doctors and other experts and tribal elders that you've listened to try and start saying, well, wait a second, how does my body really work? Who do I want to listen to? And in the old days, I like to tell the story, but in the old days, if you didn't listen to the right signals around you, if you didn't hear a twig snap or hear something out in the wild, you literally could be killed, okay? Because that's how we live. These days, it's a little more insidious. And then if you listen to the wrong information or you don't pay attention to the right people, you're going to get sick and you're going to die. It's not going to be sudden death. It's going to be a long, drawn out, painful disease, basically, that your doctor thinks is genetic, that's really coming from the environment. So I like to put everything in that hunter-gatherer's framework and say, well, if I were to go to a grocery store 20,000 years ago, what would I find on the shelves? Well, I would find meat and wild-caught seafood, and I wouldn't find pasta or starches or vegetables.
You
And
wouldn't find vegetables.
you would not really. I'm sorry, guys. The other kind of thing I like to say is that in the history of this world, no hunter-gatherer ever said, hey, honey, I'm going to go out and pick up some kale and some butter lettuce and some radicchio. You get the knives and the cutting boards ready. When I get back, we're going to chop it up and have one hell of a salad. That never happened. Never happened, okay? If you like vegetables, great, but let's start to think about our body and our biology over hundreds of thousands of generations and years. And how did we come to look like this? How do our bodies function? And these bodies, don't forget, they were created outside on this planet, in this environment, in this universe, out of the very dirt of this planet. So what we are is we're this incorporation of the minerals in on the Earth's crust, and we are a product of all this evolution from much lesser animals, from single-celled animals, and here we are, these complex multicellular creatures. We evolved here. We need to think about what were the sensory inputs over all these thousands of years that made us who we are. And when we look at that, we can start to understand what we need to do to keep ourselves healthy. And you know, the animals in captivity get sick, right? Well, this is just a cage for us. We're literally animals in captivity. And the reason is that our zookeepers, our doctors, and whoever else is taking care of us, they haven't really figured out what to put into this cage to allow us to be healthy. So we can't be surprised when the human race itself is getting sick, because we're literally living in captivity.
That is so beautifully said. I absolutely love that. And the problem is, it's so normalized now. We look around and everybody is sick with something. Everybody has chronic illness. People cite the studies that came out in 2016 and 2018. There was like 12% of Americans are metabolically healthy. And then it was 2018, it's now 7%. Do you think we've even gone close to go the right direction since the pandemic? It's way,
Yeah.
way, way worse. Way
We're
worse.
really going in the opposite direction. And one of the things I like to say, that I really want people to think about this, is that you can't fix or repair something unless you understand how it works and know why it broke down in the first place. And our doctors, unfortunately, don't have a clue. And I'm a doctor. And so I'm treating people based on this story that I learned throughout my medical career, treating dental patients. And for me to come in contact with this whole alternative universe of vitamins and minerals, and it was really a journey that everyone kind of has to take. And if people watching this podcast are probably down that road, but it really is a journey, and everyone has to kind of discover this stumble over the truth themselves, and start to understand that when people say everyone knows that vegetables are good for you, everyone knows that meat causes cancer, everyone knows that going in the sun causes cancer or causes melanoma. When we say these things, it's very damaging, because it's simply not true. Remember that just because everybody believes something, that doesn't make it true.
That's right.
And that's really the case when it comes to our current modern health situation. That's really the case. The entire world is going vegetarian, vegan, but it's the same people who are trying to convince you to do that. Then they were the ones who tried to convince us to go low fat in the early 1980s. Same people, same everything, and it's just for money as well. It was wrong back in those days to get rid of all those natural fats, and it's wrong today to get rid of everything for plant-based. We are animals. We are very different than plants. We don't technically eat plants. We eat the animals that eat plants. They're called ruminants. They're the ones who eat green growing grass, and they transform that grass through their gut microbiome into meat that we are supposed to eat by evolution.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it's a beautiful cycle when you can understand it and see it for what it is. And here's a good example. I took a picture the other day, kind of by the freeway. There's a little pasture with a bunch of cows hanging out on this pasture. Right behind the pasture is a six-lane freeway in either direction, and a huge concrete factory that's literally like flattening an entire mountain. And it's like, you people that want to talk about climate change, you think it's these guys? You think it's the cows that are doing it? Like, give me a break.
Well, I want to throw this out there, and I think you're going to start to hear this more and more. My personal belief, if climate change is real, and I think it's hard for us to guarantee that it is, the planet cools and heats at very different cycles for very different reasons. But I believe that one of the biggest issues is the lack of soil now in this world due to GMO farming, because these chemicals kill the soil's microbiome. That soil is supposed to be deep, 10 feet or deeper. And this is a giant sink for organic matter. And it's been destroyed all across North America, all across China, probably across most of the world, because we don't even know the reach of companies that were Monsanto. These GMO companies, they're everywhere, and you don't even know. They've corrupted pretty much a lot of the planet. But when you kill the microbiome of the soil, you're literally destroying a giant carbon sink. And there's millions of acres across America. You can see it's all GMO farming. So I think this is a bigger issue than people are thinking. And the second thing is that we can't we can't switch fuels instantly. We got to use gas for a while longer. We can use gas. It's not the end of the world. But getting rid of animals and saying that these animals are bad for us is the exact opposite. Mother Nature created a perfect system and a perfect balance. Animals graze, eat green growing grass. We hunt and kill them. We eat them. That's how we evolved. We can do whatever we want, but that's what Mother Nature already figured out for us. I don't think that any factory or any scientist at this moment in time can do better than what Mother Nature has created. There's just no way. You can't
Yeah.
fool Mother Nature. You just can't.